Hey friends, welcome back to my channel, Socially Awkward, where the longer you stick around, the more you will see why I named it that. So as you guys can see by the title, I think we have ourselves another sewing fail. I recently made McCall's 8500, which is Mrs. Knit Dress and Jumpsuits. It's a vintage reproduction pattern. It's rated as easy, and your suggested fabrics are stretch knits only, such as cotton knits, jersey, lightweight double knits, stretch velour, stretch terry, and then you do need some lightweight fusible interfacing as well. The sizes range from 6 to 24, and then you do have the option of buying shoulder pads so that you can get that true 80s vintage look. The views are not labeled, so there's like no view A, view B, view C, view D. But I decided to make the romper version. Here are the line drawings, by the way. So I made the romper, and the cool thing about this pattern is it is reversible, so the front can be worn in the back and then vice versa. But again, I made this view, which is the romper. Hopefully you guys can see that. And then for my fabric choice, I used a jersey knit that I got from Hobby Lobby during one of their sales. I showcased this fabric in a previous video of my future sewing makes, and it is this watercolor floral fabric. It's like a jersey knit. It's super stretchy and it's super soft on the skin. It is a bit see-through, but I don't mind that. I knew with this romper it was going to be just something to lounge around in the house, and so I didn't mind it being a little bit see-through because I wanted to make like some cute pajamas. So that is the look that I was going for. And then as for sizing, let me just grab my notes here. As for sizing, I made mine in the size 18, and that was based on, let's see, on the envelope. I had a reason for this. That was based on the bust measurement. And so my bust is like a 38, 39-ish. And I knew I wanted it to kind of fit a little bit taut, but not too much. I wanted like a little bit of like breathable room just in case there is a time where I want to wear this outside of the house. I wanted to make sure that I could fit like a bra or something underneath it. Didn't want it to fit too snug. And so I decided that the size 18 was going to be my best bet. It does have the finish waist or finish measurements for your bust and your waist for all of the views. But if you look at the envelope and even at the line drawings, there is a bit of gathering at the waistline. And so I knew that these were going to fit kind of on the looser side as far as like the bottom. So I really wanted to pay attention to the bodice portion of this pattern. And I think that that part of the pattern worked out. Let's see. So another thing with this pattern is it has facings for the front. And I don't know if this is like a vintage thing, like a vintage pattern thing, because I've noticed like the few times where I've sewn up a vintage pattern, they list the interfacing as optional. They really walk you through like the instructions of like how to apply it and all that type of thing. And so if you're interested in making this pattern, it does say that the facings are optional. Altogether, if you're making this pattern, you'll need about 6 pieces. But if you decide that you don't want to do the facing pieces, that makes it even less. So overall, with this pattern being rated as easy, I definitely agree with that. For interfacing, I used knit fusible interfacing. It doesn't say to use knit interfacing. It just says interfacing, but if you're a beginner, whenever you're using a stretchy fabric, you want to make sure that your interfacing kind of mimics that same amount of stretch. So I used knit interfacing, and overall, I think that that worked out. I'm just gonna show you guys really quick. I can get like a little piece here. So this is the jumpsuit, and it has these facing pieces in the front right here. And so it does call for you to interface these front facing pieces, which I would recommend. personally. It does give it a bit more stability and it's not super stretchy. I do still have a little bit of like waviness here, but I think that's just from me stretching the fabric. But I would definitely recommend not skipping interfacing your facing pieces. All right, you guys, let's talk about why I think this pattern is a fail. So I'm gonna go ahead and put up video of me wearing the romper, which I think is so cute. I think the fabric really embodied that 80s look that I was going for, which is why I'm so hurt that this is a fail. At least it's a fail to me. But the crotch is way too short on me, and once I attached the bodice to the shorts, I tried it on, and you guys, it was uncomfortable, honestly. And almost gave up, but then I'm like, no, like let's see if we can do some modifications. So I did do a bunch of modifications. I ended up adding well, I ended up picking out the stitches because overall your seam allowance is 5/8, which is, the usual. And after I would stitch, I would serge. And so I decided to just keep the serge stitch. So I picked out the 5/8 and then I did a stitch very, very close to the serging stitches just to kind of give myself a little bit more room. When I first tried on the romper, I was wondering if maybe I should have lengthened the bodice a bit, but I'm not sure if that would have helped. I think that would have kind of made it look even more awkward as far as like how it goes into that V shape. So I'm not sure, like in the future, if I do decide to make this romper again, how I would modify it other than, doing like I don't know what type of adjustment that would be. I don't know if that's like a seat adjustment or what, but the crotch was just way too short on me. And so I ended up adding length as far as like taking out some of that seam allowance, or I guess adding to the seam allowance. I don't know, but did that adjustment. And then another thing that I did was I did not top stitch, or I couldn't top stitch around that stitching. And so that's just kind of like a visual modification, I guess, if we want to call that, because I did top stitch around the front facings. And so once it gets down to that lower part, there's no top stitching there, which I don't think that really matters, to be honest. The print is very busy. Another thing that I did is in the actual crotch area, I went ahead and picked out my sewing machine stitches and just kept that serge stitch there. I didn't go back with my sewing machine and stitch like I did for the attaching the bodice to the shorts. I just kept that serger stitch at the crotch because I wanted to have as much space as possible. And that did kind of seem to help a bit. After doing all of that, which took a while, by the way, and I was very much over it, um, I tried it on and it fit a little bit better, but I still had that uncomfortable feeling. And so I ended up putting it away for a couple days and just, was like, we'll revisit this whenever I'm in a better mindset, because I was really annoyed that it wasn't fitting properly because everything had literally gone perfect. Like the instructions were great. I felt like I was going to finish this project in no time, but that fit really got to me. And the last item that I made, you guys know, which was that black McCall's dress, took me through it. And so I'm like, I just want to make something just without having to like adjust, adjust, adjust. So I was very much over it. And so I came back in a couple days later and I still needed to do the hem, which, by the way, I did end up adding 3 inches to the length of the shorts because I wanted it to be super flowy. I didn't want the shorts to be super short because, again, this is going to serve as like pajamas for me. So I want it to be like very loose, very comfortable. So all that was left for me to do was to hem the bottom of the shorts. And another modification I did was I did a 1 1/4 inch hem around that. I think the pattern called for a 5/8 hem, but I knew that I wanted to do a larger hem, which is why I added a lot of inches to the length of the shorts. But yeah, I think overall they came out okay. I mean, I don't know. You guys will have to tell me what you think and if it's like super obvious that I'm uncomfortable in them. I did search the hashtag on Instagram to see other people, like if they've made this pattern, and to be honest, it kind of looks the same on them too, but they all say they love it. So I'm like, maybe it's just a me thing. Also, maybe this was like how things fit in the 80s. I don't know. But let me know what you guys think of how they turned out on me. I love the fabric so much. I think it gives that old vintage, like 80s vibe. So I'm still going to wear them around the house, which was the reason for me making this pattern in the first place. Another thing I thought of doing is kind of taking off the shorts because I still have a little bit of fabric left. And I was thinking of just making the skirt view, you know, because it honestly, it looks like a dress. Like the bodice part, I'm like in love with. I also love that it's reversible, although I think majority of the time I'm going to wear the facings to the front. But I love the bodice portion of this romper, so I can see myself making this pattern again. The instructions are way too easy for me to just throw this pattern to the side. I can see myself making this again. I can see myself making the dress. Um, and you know, like I said, I might end up turning this romper into the dress depending on how much fabric I have left over because although it looks like it won't take much fabric, I have to keep in mind that there is some gathering that has to be done in order to get it to fit onto the bodice. So I say all that to say I would make this pattern again. I can't tell you guys enough how I love these instructions so much. They're so detailed. I just picked them up again and I just realized that they actually have an interfacing guide on here that tells you the type of interfacing that you should get based on your fabric, which is cool. And yeah, I love the process of this pattern a lot. It's just that crotch length. And I don't know if that's just like an 80s thing. Like maybe 80s patterns just fit that way. So if you're from the 80s, let me know if that's like a thing. And I just didn't know. I can only imagine if I would have put the shoulder pads in, how much more the crotch would have been uncomfortable on me. Like it was crazy. But that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you guys think down below. Make sure that you like this video and leave me a comment letting me know what you think. Subscribe if you have not already. I really appreciate it. And I will catch you guys in my next upload.